Welcome everyone back to the Alex Beyond Thoughts podcast with me, Alex. And today we are welcoming a guest, a very special guest. We have Alyse on the pod today. Alyse is a brand strategy, brand design, and illustration magnate. And Alyse helps create wild brands for ambitious founders who want to live their wildest dreams. I am so excited to have you on the pod today. Thank you for coming, Alyse. How are you?
So happy to be here, Alex. I'm very good, really excited to finally be recording this. We've had it in the pipeline for a bit. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, amazing. So, for those of you who don't know or haven't listened to other episodes, we are on a mastermind together. That is how
Yes.
we've met. We are in a 4-month mastermind with our gorgeous, lovely coach, Em. And we kind of just got to talking in one of our uh, mastermind calls about like things we can do and the ways we can support each other and just being really present and like open and communicating together in this kind of sisterhood. And it sparked an idea for me. And I thought, why don't I bring the girls onto the podcast? So that is what I'm kind of doing. You might notice we are having a little succession of girls. We just had Jess
So
the other
good.
week on the podcast, and now we've got you, Alyse. I'm so excited for it. So I want to dive straight in, really. And I want to ask you, what were your first steps into your current career and building this huge business?
Yeah, cool question. My path to where I'm at the moment is not super straightforward. Um, so I went straight out of school, took a gap year because I was rejected from my quote unquote dream course and had a little bit of redirection, but ultimately ended up back at university and I studied architecture and urban planning in Melbourne. I'm an Australian gal for 4 years, and this course really was quite insane. It is well known for being quite a difficult and taxing course. And yep, I went through the whole thing. I got an internship halfway through it. So I was working full time, uni full time, all of the things. And eventually I ended up being in that industry, working in that industry for about 5 years. So I was full corporate girly. I worked in private, I worked in government, I did all the things. And we got to lockdown in Melbourne, and I was approached by a friend to help with the branding of her new business that she was starting in lockdown. And I was like, interesting. Like, that sounds fun. I'll do that for my friend. And once I got into it, I got so hooked, like so incredibly addicted to this world. I didn't even know that people did this for a living, that this was a thing that you could learn about brand strategy and apply that to branding and graphic design and make this big impact for people starting their own businesses, starting their own brands. So I got really, really hooked in lockdown and eventually transitioned out of my old career completely. I quit my 9 to 5 and went into my business full time about halfway through last year, so 2022, and worked in that space for the rest of that year rather. And then I moved last June, so about 4 or 5 months ago, from Melbourne to Munich in Germany. So have had a big change halfway through my business journey of moving to a different continent and have continued. I've brought the business with me. It has changed and grown and evolved as we have moved on. And I'm currently working in marketing and design here in Germany as well as running my business. So there's a lot actually going on. But yeah, that's the journey so far.
I love that. There's so much in there, and
There's a lot.
it's so cool as well because in all of this, you've just been navigating change. Like even 4 months ago, and probably up till now, you have been navigating change for years.
Yeah, so much change. Absolutely. A few years ago, I definitely couldn't have held this much change, but I think the finding my business and sort of finding the business world also coincided with me finding the self development world. And like you mentioned before, I'm in masterminds, I'm in one on ones, I'm in group programs because it really allows me to hold all of the change that I've been going through and to sort of improve my human alongside improving all of the business stuff. So yeah, I think that this is a really cool part of starting a business, whether it's in the coaching world or not, is that you get to be a part of these spaces where people are doing such cool things and you get to surround yourself with them. So yeah, that's also my foray, I suppose, into the self-development space.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I'd love to like dig deeper into the part about brand and like you starting this business and obviously with your friend and everything. What part of it was the selling point that made you think, okay, I don't want to do this for myself. I want to do this for others. And I want to make this a business, not just a hobby?
That's a super cool question, Alex. I think that the reason that the sort of the purpose that I have essentially when running my business at the moment, and I'll backtrack to sort of how I found this purpose, but the purpose that I have is to help other women who want to run their own business, run their own brand, to do so. And the reason that I think that that is important is because I think it's super incredibly important to be able to define your own version of success, define what your wildest dreams kind of lifestyle life looks like, and build on that. And I think sort of looping back to my journey through going through a career that I really didn't like at all, and sort of trudging through that because it was what was supposed to be done, quote unquote, like the best path to follow.
Yeah.
I really see so much value in the people who are stepping outside of that box and who are then going and defining, hey, success looks like this to me, success looks like this to somebody else, and having the ambition and drive to go and chase that. So I'm not sure quite when I landed in that in terms of like, oh, I can make fun designs and like, oh, wait, I can actually make a bigger impact for more and more people here. But I think it just sort of clicked at some point
Mm,
between starting out as a hobby and going, okay, I think I'm going to quit my job. I think I'm going to quit
yeah.
this career that is stable. It is, quote unquote safe. It pays well, all of the things. And I'm going to do my own thing. And I guess like it's what I'm doing as well. And I see
Mm,
so much value in helping other people to do the same thing. So
yeah.
it's a bit of a roundabout, long-winded
Oh,
answer,
no,
but
no.
hopefully that answers it for you.
Yeah. I have so many follow up questions to that as well. Just listening to you talk, it's so amazing because I think for so many of the listeners that are in this podcast area right now, brand is going to be like a wait, what what are we talking about? Brand? What does that really mean? So that's one of my questions. My second question that I probably will pick up after we've talked about what is brand, because I don't want to get people lost in what we're kind of talking about right now. My second question would probably be around that element of you deciding, okay, this is it, we're going all in. I want to pick up secondly on that, but quickly for the listeners in the very you could Google this kind of moment,
Of
what is
course.
brand?
Yeah, cool. So, brand is what you feel when you interact with a business. That's putting it very simply. And like you said, you can Google this definition. But for me, brand is how you're making people feel, and the power of a brand comes in making people want to stand alongside you. So, if you are able to have a vision, have a mission, have a set of values or a set of goals that you're standing for in your society, in your place in the world, and you can communicate those effectively, you will bring in the people that also stand for the same thing, and that equals a community. So if you are trying to build a community, if you're trying to build impact, then you're going to want to focus on your brand, because at the end of the day, this is what the feeling that people get when they interact with your business,
Mm-hmm.
and your brand is what is going to get them to keep coming back for more, to join your community, to be diehard fans, to be
Yeah.
like telling people on the street about your whatever you're doing. And it could be anything. This could be a product or a service or all of the things. So that's as you can tell, I can get carried away with the quote
Oh
unquote short
no,
answers.
I honestly love it because the more we can give depth to these conversations and the more we can actually give context to what we're talking about, it's so much easier to keep up with the conversation, and it's so much easier as well, I think, to actually be able to engage with what you're listening to. I find some of the time when I'm listening to podcasts and listening to people talk in their expertise, they kind of forget that people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And these in-depth explanations and the longer version and the roundabout versions, they end up making so much more sense than if you just given me the Google definition.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's just an important definition to understand your brand and your branding. So your brand is how you're making people feel. It's intangible. And then what most people sort of think of when I say the word brand is the branding part of it. And that is a part of a brand. But a
Mm.
brand, like branding is the visual elements. So what do people see? What do people interact with? And these are the things that most people are aware of, like colors and type and content and all of the things. So there are two main parts here, but I think that the real juice and the real impact comes from working on your brand and then carrying it through to your branding. So
Mm.
that's my spiel.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because so many of us get caught up on the branding side and the colors and the
Yes,
fonts, and we focus so much energy when we don't really know the power of brand. We put so much energy into your branding, and suddenly we're lost in the source, and like you've not made a community that's going to engage with the branding anyway.
exactly. You've hit the nail on the head.
So cool. Okay, so let's circle back around then to that second question. And in that kind of lead up to you deciding that, okay, we're going full force, we're diving in, we're doing it, absolutely. No, I can't think of the term I was going to use. No, I was about to say no holds barred,
No
but
holds
that
barred.
really doesn't,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I've heard that one.
um, but yeah, so that thought process leading up to it, I kind of want to know, like, what was the vibes in your world then? Were you super fearful before making this decision? Were you really like convicted and really strong in your decision? Were you going back and forth asking for people's opinions? Like, what was the lead up for you and what did it look like then?
Yeah, cool question. There was so much duality at this time for me. And what I mean by that is I was scared shitless. And I was also like fully convicted that it was going to be completely fine and amazing at the
Mm,
exact same time. And I'd never really understood that you could hold these two really opposite ends of the emotion spectrum, if you will, at the same time. So I had a private one-on-one mentor at this coach at this time, and that coach really helped me to navigate how I was feeling about the change because my history was follow the quote unquote rules, follow the path that is sort of the not the easiest. And not to discredit anybody that goes and studies and gets a corporate job, but it's the straightforward path. It's the path that my parents supported and the people around me were most accepting of because they could understand it. And I was used to following what was set out for me. And so now I got to this point where it was like, okay, am I really going to quit safety? Am I really going to quit the university degree to do something that I have no idea if it's going to work? I have no idea if I'm going to like it in 6 months. I have no idea if there's any opportunity here other than how I'm feeling in my core, which is that it's going to be amazing and it's going to change my life and it's everything I want. So at the time, I was very introspective. I wasn't really looking for validation from anybody around me because I was so fearful that people weren't going to give it to me. And so I decided, okay, I'm just going to make these decisions on my own. And of course, when I got to the point where I wanted to sort of start to tell people, they were limited. So to the people that I really sort of felt that I needed to tell, so my mum, my partner, some of my best friends, and the reactions were all incredibly different. And at that time, I got to learn how to hold other people's projections and other people's opinions and how they felt about my life and hold space for them and then just block them out anyway. So it was actually a very transformative time. And I think a lot of people will get to this point in their life where they have a decision they want to make or a change they want to make, whether it's small or whether it's big or whether it's massive. And they will come to a point where they're holding a lot of projections from the people around them. So, for example, for me, my mum really wished that I was staying in the safety of the full time employment. But my partner was like, you're so much happier when you're designing. So you should definitely do that. Like, just take the risk. You're in your
yeah.
20s, like, just do whatever you want. And so there's different opinions being thrown around. Um, and it was super cool to learn to be able to manage that and to be able to do what I wanted to do and have the people around me sort of, they didn't leave. I really thought that everyone would really,
Yeah.
you know, disappear at the end of the day because I didn't follow their advice. But yeah, it was a really interesting time, and I'm sure that you can probably relate to a lot of that with starting your own
Yeah.
business and paving your own path that maybe people in your family haven't done in the past either.
Yeah, for sure. That's so powerful as well. Like, I resonated with so much what you were saying there, and it's that real big crossroads, I think, that we all have to reach at some point. And for some people, that's a crossroads of like, okay, in this career path that I'm choosing, it's the complete opposite to what my family have done. So maybe my family all went to uni and they were all lawyers and they were all doctors, or like whatever the family narrative is, and you're expected to follow that. You're expected to be a lawyer, you're expected to be a doctor, you're expected to be a graphic designer, like whatever it is. There was like, there's this expectation, and you come to a crossroads and you're like, I really want to be an artist. I really want to be an actor. I really want to be a rocket scientist. I don't know. Whatever the job is and whatever the career is and whatever it is that's in a crossroads and in contention with what your family wishes you to do and what your immediate close friends and family wish for you, when you're going against that, there is so much resistance.
So
And
much.
it's so easy to just carry on the path of least resistance. But actually, it's so detrimental to you because you will never know. If I'd have done that, if I'd have got met that crossroads and I'd done what I'd said I was going to do, where would I have ended up? And that what if can replay in your mind for so long. And it did for me. Like, I remember even as a kid, like 15, 16, wanting to start a YouTube channel, wanting to like be creative online and things like that. And I met the crossroads. People told me not to do it. My parents said like it was dangerous to put your face online and all the stuff, like all of the narratives, all of the projections. And I listened because obviously I was 16. You're going to probably listen to your parents at 16, do you know what I mean? So I listened, and it's such a big passion of mine that never got fulfilled in the way that
Mm.
16-year-old me pictured it. So it's always like that what if in the back of your mind. And there's so many points where you can actually make it happen and fail and not have the what if and not have that little regret constantly niggling at you, thinking of the past and thinking of all the places that your future could have gone. I would much rather fail now. I would much rather send it in this business, send it on my podcast, send it on my YouTube, and fail and have it fail horrifically than never know. And so many people meet that crossroads and they kind of freeze and they go, oh, this is too hard.
What
I'm
if
going
it
to stop here.
fails? What if it doesn't work? Yeah. I think the other part of this is if you're sort of listening and you're going, yeah, there's something I really want to do, but like I can't. There's a
Mm,
block there. The thing that if I like one of the things that helped me the most was learning that you can create evidence for yourself that things are quote unquote safe. And the way to do this, sometimes it can be to take a massive leap, quit your job, go for it. Like, and if you want to do that, then do that. Sometimes you can instead build on your self belief and your self worth and how you feel about yourself in smaller ways and lead yourself up to, for example, quitting your job and changing your career, because that's the example
mm,
that we've sort of been speaking to. And this really, really helped me. So, for example, I would always say, oh, I really want to work out more. I'm going to work out more. I'm going to work out more. And then I would just not do it. And you really mess with yourself here because you rob yourself of the chance to prove to yourself that you do what you said you were going to do.
mm.
And so if you start small, if you're going, okay, like I really want a career change, I really want to start a YouTube channel, I really want to become a coach, whatever it might be, start small in a different area that's completely unrelated. And for me, it was, I started going to the gym and I was like, I'll go 1 day a week. It's a small commitment. I started doing that. I was like, I've done what I said I was going to do. I'm going to go
Yeah,
2 days and then I'm going to go 5 days. And I proved to myself over time that I was the kind of person that said, and it doesn't matter that it was the gym, this is just an example. And that really, really, really helped me to have the confidence and the self worth to go, I'm going to quit my job and I know that I'm going to do what I said I was going to do in order to make the business successful. Because, of course, you can't just go, I run a business and not do
yeah,
anything to build it, to run it,
yeah,
to do the things, to get the clients, all of the things. And so this is like even a reminder for me now to drop in and go, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. And this, it just builds confidence. It's probably
Mm-hmm.
my biggest recommendation. And I'm not a coach, I'm not a mindset coach, and I'm sure there's more profound things out there. But yeah, really, if somebody is listening and they want to make a small change or a big change, that's where I would start for sure.
And I don't even think you need to be a mindset coach to say that, because you are the evidence and you are a permission piece for other people that wouldn't maybe have done that and maybe have thought, okay, Alyse did it. That's permission. That's evidence. If Alyse can do it, then so can I. And I think that's so cool. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love these kind of conversations because I get so excited about dissecting like the thought process and the kind of energy that you were dealing with at the time and the kind of projections you were facing, because so many of us face the same kinds of projections and the same kinds of judgment or miscommunication when we're doing something big. And that change can be anything. The change can be you deciding to move to Germany. You could have not even started a business, but just decided to move to Germany. There are going to be people in your life that probably have an opinion on that. The change could
100%.
be that you want to dye your hair and your parents are like, absolutely not. The change could be anything, and it could be as meaningful or as like unmeaningful to you as you decide it is. But actually, when you get to these kind of places where you have to go against the grain and you have to go with this seemingly harder path at the time, you're always going to feel more rewarded, whether it works out or whether it doesn't, because you tried and you showed up for yourself and you committed to what you said you were going to do. And even if you fail at the final hurdle, even if it crashes and burns, you've got all the evidence you need to say that if a hard decision comes again, I've got myself and I
Yeah.
will perform to the best of my abilities and I will make it happen as best I can. It might not work, but I will try. And that's so powerful.
Yeah, I love it. I love this conversation. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Honestly, like the thing is that this stuff never stops. Like for me, having this conversation has ignited like a few thoughts in my brain of what I want to go and work on now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not that I've done and dusted and I've figured out I'm self confident and everything works for me now. But yeah, it's just a super cool conversation because you can keep on having it no matter what stage you're at, and it can keep on being beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a whole offer suite basically dedicated to this kind of conversation, and I don't know if you guys are listening and you want to look at some of that. Honor in my product suite is an amazing course for this. It's all about developing your self trust. It's about honoring your word. It's about showing up when you say you're going to and sticking to everything you decide you want to stick to. So if you want to catch up on some of these conversations, then definitely jump into Honor. But back to this episode, Alyse, what were your first steps into self development that you can kind of say, yeah, that was the moment where it clicked for me that this work is it?
Cool question. I did not know that this world existed. I think this is a common thread for most people. I didn't know, and then all of a sudden I was really in it. And when I started sort of really thinking about the business being a business and not just a side hustle, not just a hobby kind of thing, I found a few of the Aussie online coaches. I think the Australian industry is really quite big now.
Yeah.
And perhaps in the last few years, it has become this. So maybe it wasn't there before. But I found a couple of coaches online and I was like, this is interesting. Maybe they can teach me how to set up things in my business and how to choose an email platform and how to choose a bank account. Like, this is what I was really thinking that they would help me with. And of course, their marketing says, we're going to work on your mindset. We're going to make you feel really confident and we're going to make you all of the things.
Yeah.
But it's a business and mindset coaching container, so we can help you with your business. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to pay whatever the price was at the time, and they're going to help me set up the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not have been further from reality in that assumption. I really did think I was, because my masculine Capricorn brain was like, someone needs to tell me X, Y, Z, how to set up this platform, and then I'll be good to go
Yeah.
and I'll be successful.
Yeah. I
And
love
I got
that.
into my first container, and it was a one-on-one container. It was for 1 month, and it was like a call a week and a Voxer support 5 days a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And I could not have been further from the truth. And honestly, this is like my first experience, and since then I haven't stopped being in mindset containers, whether they be one-on-one, group coaching, masterminds, all of the things. Because in this container, I had so much reflected back to me. We barely touched like the quote unquote business side of things. We barely touched the admin stuff because I can figure that out on Google, like you kind of
Yeah,
touched on before, right?
heavy on that.
We went so deep into mindset stuff that I did not know existed. We touched on shadow work, like very early stages of shadow work, like looking at old wounds and looking at the parts of me that were coming out from my childhood, or whatever that might have been. We looked at how I feel about money. We looked at how I feel about business, about success, about all of these things, about friendship, about love, relationships, all of the things. And my mind was just cracked wide open. I was like, oh my God, how could I, first of all, have been so like naive, but
Yeah,
also like this is so sick. And I honestly
yeah.
got addicted because you don't know what you don't know. And yes, I'm running a business and I use a lot of the mindset and coaching stuff that I have in my life on improving my business, on improving how I operate, on improving how I show up, all of the things. But also I just get to work on who I am as a person. And I think that is really the part that is important to me, because if the business went away tomorrow, I would still have all of the stuff that I've worked on in my personal life and for my own self. And I can start another business. Like it's not about this
Yeah.
is the reason why I'm successful in the business. This is the reason why I'm running a business. I need a coach. It's like, I just want one.
Hmm.
And I like our mastermind space is incredible because not only do we have an insane coach in M, we also have the other women in the space who bring in their own stuff that you might never have thought of, and who share so vulnerably and who help you heal sisterhood wounds and all of these things that I didn't even know this was like a thing on the planet a year and
Yeah,
a half ago, and now it's just gets to be a part of my everyday life.
exactly. It makes me so happy to hear other people's journey into this, because I feel like we're all very similar in some ways and so different in others. Because I've been in the self development world since I was like 17, and I kind of tripped and fell into it through so it's so funny, but I'm pretty sure my first experience of like anything motivational was Oprah. And that was when I was very young, because my
How
mom used to
funny.
like binge watch Ellen and Oprah on daytime TV,
Yeah.
because she was like a stay at home mom for like half the week and then that kind of thing. So when we were younger, like Oprah and Ellen were like the starting the starting blocks. Um and as I got older, it then just started falling into my feed, and I was looking at entrepreneurship and cryptocurrency and business, and like, that kind of period of time where it's like, okay, what are you going to do, a career, or are you going to do uni? Which one? Pick one. That's your two options. Go for it. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to do uni anymore. This is not working out for me. I hate school. I hate like the environment that I've been put into in this place with these people. I want to build business. So it's so funny. I literally found Gary V. I don't know if you know Gary,
Cool.
but I
Yeah,
found
of
Gary
course.
V through something. I don't even know how I found Gary, but I did. And he interviewed Tony Robbins on his podcast. And it was a really early on podcast. I think it was maybe like 2016, 2017, something like that. And the way, obviously, Tony speaks, mind cracked open. And it still took me a fair few years to even transition from just learning on YouTube and learning through books and videos and things like that. It still took me like years to get actually into online coaching and to be in this space. And funnily enough, it wasn't even in the UK, it was through the Australian girls.
Ah,
The Australian coaches pulled me into this space, right? So it was like, I've got this foundation and I've got so much knowledge around mindset and growth mindsets and limiting mindsets and all of these kind of things and all of these words that I have some context to, but I'm not really connecting to them. And this was my process. And suddenly these coaches online were putting words to my thoughts, and they were able to speak to things that I was feeling but couldn't put words to. And it's so funny because in the mastermind now, all of you girls are dropping in with things that I was like, guys, I've been thinking this, but I didn't even know I was thinking this. And I've
Yeah.
had this limiting thought and I didn't even realize, because now I'm triggered, but you're talking about it and I don't know why I'm triggered. So maybe that actually means that I'm feeling it too, kind of thing. And just seeing how everyone operates and what's important to them and what they're struggling with and what their wins are and how they operate to get their wins, it's been such a mind opening and eye opening process to like show what's possible and to understand that I'm not alone in this. And there are other people having the same struggles or who have surpassed me in that struggle and have gone on to this thing and they're finding this part great about it. And so many like different elements of being in the self-development world that we were naive to and that we had no idea about until we were in it, and until we were in the kind of spaces that allowed us to have these kind of breakthroughs, to process these kind of emotions, and to have this deep connection. Because me and you have never met, but I could meet you in a room tomorrow and I'll be running up to you, I'll be hugging you, we'll be chatting for hours. I can absolutely guarantee it.
Yeah.
But that's the power of these deep and meaningful and emotional practices. They're not just you sat on a Zoom call, like, oh, hi everyone, how's your week? Yeah, great, thanks. What's the problem today, guys? Like, that is not the kind of vibe
It's
that
not
these
it. No.
spaces create. It's so profound to see women in their highest stage of vulnerability and see them still operate in their strength and see them lean on other people and see them feel the emotion but take action and fix their own problem live. Like the other day, we saw someone kind of talking about an issue they were having and they'd fixed it themselves just talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
right.
just, it lights me up talking about this. And it lights me up knowing that we continue to put ourselves in spaces where this is just normal. These kind of conversations and this level of connection is just normal.
Yeah, it gets to be normal. It's super cool. I think um it's sometimes quite intimidating when you see these group spaces and you're like, oh, who's going to be in there? Will
Mm.
I be the, least experienced? Will I be the
My
most
literal thought process.
experienced? Or, like, who am I going to be in this space? And maybe I should just do a one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And one-on-ones have their place and would highly recommend. But also, I think it's nice to switch it up and to have a group space, because you're not learning exactly what you need to know. You're learning what 5, 6, 10 other people also need to know. So you're
Mm-hmm.
just compounding. And like you said, you just get to build this community of people. Like, we can go on a holiday next week for a week if you want, and we know each other quite well, and like I know that we would get along so well,
Mm-hmm.
which is just insane, because as a young woman, as a 18, 20-year-old girl, I never would have thought that I would be making friends all over the world through this medium or through the business or through any other way.
Yeah.
So yeah, super cool.
So, Alyse, I want to ask you, what do you believe your purpose is? And if you don't believe in purpose or you feel like you haven't found it yet, I'd love you to speak to that too.
I have felt the weirdest way about purpose for the longest time. I think that it's a buzzword that is thrown around. I've got two answers for this, so
Mm-hmm.
like stay with me. I think it's a buzzword that's thrown around. Find your purpose. Like when I was 17, people were like, you just have to find your purpose and then you'll be happy, and just have a purposeful life and you'll be like all these things, purpose, happy, purpose, happy. And I was like, I'm 17, I'm 18, I'm 21. Like, just, I
Leave me alone.
really, I think that the pressure of that word and all the things around that time of your life, um, around, what do you want to do with the rest of your life, um, was a lot. And I think that I wish that somebody had said, you don't have to find it yet. You can just enjoy. You can just follow an interest. You don't have to follow the most high paid interest. You don't have to follow the most straightforward one. You can just have an inkling and follow that. And then you can pivot later and change. So that's like the first part of that conversation. So if there's anyone that's like, oh, I'm just sick of this purpose conversation, I would just encourage you to just allow yourself the space to go, I'm really interested in drawing. I'm really interested in running. I'm really interested in watching Gary Vee videos. and like just ask yourself, oh, I wonder why. Like, I wonder what that could lead me to. And maybe it's just another hobby that you find and you get to find a really cool hobby, and maybe it's something more. The second answer, or the second part of my answer here, is I think I've partially found my purpose, but I don't wish to like say this is it and this is going to be fixed forever, because I think that it changes over time. Right now, my purpose is to create my version of success. And so the purpose that I have is quite selfish, I would say, in that I want my life to look probably differently to a lot of other people, or to what is expected, or to what I thought that I wanted a few years ago. And so my purpose is to allow myself the space to keep following that path. I think that I mean, this answer is so convoluted, so apologies if you can't follow along.
No,
But in terms of
yeah.
what I do with my business and my clients, I feel very, very activated. I feel very purposeful and passionate, is the word I was looking for, about the purpose that I have in that business, which is to help other women to create insane powerhouse brands and businesses which serve their version of success. So if they want to have a kid and a family and work 3 days a week, and they have a brand popping off on the side, they can. If they want to work, go crazy in their 20s, and build an insane, coaching community, we can work on that. And so there's a whole lot swirling around there. But I think that the answer that I would give other people, or the advice I would give if you're looking for your purpose, is always to follow the stuff that you would do in your spare time. It doesn't always have to be monetized, because I tend to do that. But if you're spending your spare time seriously watching Gary Vee videos, then like ask yourself, what's the deeper reason? If you're spending your spare time drawing portraits and drawing, like doing graphic design invitations for your friends, like graphic design is a sick industry. You don't have to like feel any type of way about it. You could follow that. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, Alex, but
You
that's my
absolutely
take
did.
at the moment on purpose. I think it's just such a confusing term in your late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
But we're getting there.
I love that. I love it so much because I find the question is a buzzword and it means so many different things to so many different people. So highlighting that. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear them, but there is a bunch of children out on the street playing football, and I feel like they do this every episode. Every time I get on trying to talk to someone, they are out there screaming and playing football.
We can
Anyway,
let the kids live. It's okay.
honestly,
They're not very loud.
honestly. Okay, good. What I was saying is, I do find that uh, purpose is a buzzword, and because it means so many different things to so many different people, actually opening the conversation and saying, what do you think it means, and what do you feel like you found in it, and what do you think of it if you don't believe in it? I think it just opens people's eyes to, there are so many different ways for this word to show up in your life, and so many ways that you can lead yourself through purpose. It doesn't just look like climbing mountains in the aid of charity. It doesn't just look like becoming a cancer research doctor. It doesn't just look like something really like morally high and really, you should strive for this, you should save lives and whatever. It can actually just be, my purpose is to help myself on this earth live my best earthly experience. It can be that you want to create a coaching industry, you want to create a music school, you want to like do whatever it is you want to do. And you could also just not believe in purpose and you could reject the idea, and that's completely okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that that's something that I probably needed to hear at like the 17 to 22 age for me anyway. Everybody goes through things at different times. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation to open up. I think we could honestly talk about that for a lot longer.
Yeah, for sure. But we only have so much time. So I want to ask you, what are your kind of like 3 tips for listeners that you would love to share that would help people action something around what your expertise are? Or
Yeah,
even if you want to
absolutely.
carry on with purpose or something, you can choose whatever you like.
No, let's talk about brand and branding for a second. I think that the people listening will most likely be connected in some way with the coaching world, or maybe they're building it their own business, or maybe they've got an inkling that they might want to in the future. So it's a cool conversation to have. Three tips or like sort of three action steps for me. And I wrote a couple down earlier, so I'm just going to look to the side. So bear with me. I think that as a brand, a strategic brand designer, so what I do for context is I'll always go into a strategy before I design a single thing. And what I mean by strategy is not like a 15-page black and white document about like, you know, what are we selling at what time, and what's the business financing and stuff like that's boring and not related to what I do. When I talk about strategy, I talk about let's make design decisions and let's make communication decisions. So the way that you communicate with your audience, your clients, your potential clients, let's make those decisions based on the foundations of a brand, so that when you are communicating, when you are selling, when you are building the business, you're overall building a bigger brand presence over time. And that's going to accumulate and it's going to compound. So if you're, whether you're starting out, you haven't started your brand yet, you're in the middle of it, you're already like popping off, whatever sort of part you are at, you can look at this sort of these three tips that I'm going to bring you, and then you can move forward with them. So the first thing that I would do to create like the foundation of your brand is to go back to your why and your reasoning. And this also touches on the purpose conversation that we were having, but this doesn't necessarily need to mean that you've got your whole life figured out, you've got your whole purpose mapped out. What I'm talking about here is, okay, you've started a business or you want to start a business. What is that business? Let's say, for example, you are a coach. Let's just run with that example. You want to be a mindset coach or a nutrition coach or a fitness coach. Why? Coming back to let's deep dive into why do you want to start it? And you're probably going to answer me with what impacts you want to make. So I want to help women to feel their best every day so they can have a better life, whatever it might be. That.
Yeah.
And then I would ask you why. So why does that matter? Right? So you're going to have an answer for that. And then when you answer that, I'm going to ask you why. And the reason that we go into this in a brand strategy is because the more you can talk about this stuff with your brand strategist or with yourself or with your friend or with whoever you're using to bounce ideas off for your business and brand, the more juice you're going to get out of it. So if we can extract all of this juice out of this why conversation, what we're going to come up with is a set of things or one thing that you stand for in your business. You're going to come up with things like your mission, your vision, your values, and I'm sure many people understand what that means. But I think that the most important one to talk about is what you stand for. And the reason that I bring this up so much is it's really important to define what you stand for. So if you think of any brand, let's go with, I've got a Patagonia mug on my table, so let's go with Patagonia. I'm a huge fan of Patagonia because I feel like when I buy from them, I am being, and I'll put this in quotation marks, eco and sustainable. I feel like I'm being adventurous. I feel like I'm part of a bigger movement. I don't know a single person that works for that brand. So this is a faceless brand, but I am connected to them somehow. And if I walk down the street and somebody else is wearing a Patagonia shirt with the cool landscape on the back, I'm like, oh, that I would be friends with that person because they have the same values as me.
Yeah.
They stand for the same things as me. And I'm going to go and stand with Patagonia, and I'm probably going to go spend money on them this weekend and probably next month and probably next year because I feel connected in some way to how they make me feel. So if you can come back to what do you stand for? It's a simple question and we can talk about this forever, but in this first step, what do you actually stand for? You're helping people to do what? Why? Why are you doing that? Ask yourself, keep asking this juicy question, because if you don't know what you stand for, then how can people stand with you? So step one, let's go figure that out. Whether you work with a strategic brand designer, whether you work with yourself, that's step one. Step two would be to build the brand strategy from this. And this is kind of a selfish step two, because I would say that working with a strategic brand designer is really important at some phase in your business. So it's not often super important for somebody who's just starting out, but maybe you're in the middle part of your business, or you're looking and you're like, I'm about to pop off, I'm about to grow. We can come back to brand strategy. We can define your vision, your mission, your values, but we can also look at your audience better. So if you're not ready to work with a brand strategist yet, the tip here is to look at your audience. And I'm not talking about creating an avatar of I don't know, Lucy, who lives in London and likes to drink coffee, whatever. I'm
Yeah.
talking about, like, how does Lucy make a buying decision? Does she ask her friends? Does she ask her mum? Does she do it herself? Is she self-led? How does Lucy feel about sustainability, or how does she feel about a more relevant example for the coaching industry might be like, how does she feel about counting calories, or whatever it might be. So like really get clear on who you're speaking to is step 2. And then step 3, I would say, is let's feed this into your visuals. So again, if you're at that level, then I would always recommend working with a brand designer who uses strategy first to build out the visuals of your brand. So, and here I'm talking about the obvious things like colors and text and font and graphics, but there's other things in your branding that really matter. So how are you sending out welcome documents? How are you selling your offers? All of the things, and all of the things that people see are going to make them feel a certain thing. And so it all links back to your overall brand. So there's 3 tips there, a little bit convoluted and a little bit, it depends on what phase you're in. But I think it's really important to, even if you just grab a journal out, write down what you stand for. And if you can't figure it out, just keep asking yourself why. Or have a conversation on your voice notes with yourself or with a friend. Why? Like, just keep asking why. Then feed that into your strategy in terms of, who am I actually trying to impact here? Let's really define Lucy or whoever it might be that we're selling to. And then let's make sure that we're communicating in our messaging and in our graphics and visuals with that message behind it. So that's where I would begin. And that's where that's what I would always advocate for somebody who's growing a brand at any point, whether, like I said, whether it's a new thing or whether it is you've been in business a few years and you're leveling up. I think that this is super valuable work. And as you can probably hear, I could talk about this forever because it is a huge passion of mine to really make sure that people are communicating their brand in a way that's not only going to serve them and serve their business growth, but also to serve the people that they're ultimately trying to impact. So, yeah, I'm going to stop it there because otherwise I'll just keep going.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Those are such good tips. And if there's anything I wanted to add to it, I'd say with your mission, when you, on your first tip about finding your why, your mission has to drive you, but it also has to be the thing that gets you back on the horse when you inevitably fall off. When the first
100%.
failure comes
I
in,
love that.
when you get the bad news, when a deal falls through, when the piece of negative thing that's going to knock you off, your mission and your why and your values have to be there to stand you up and put you back on the horse and say, okay, let's go again. Are you willing to be a year in business with no sales? Are you willing to, and that be the reason that you keep going? Are you willing to have someone say that your product or service wasn't what they expected and they didn't like it and they want a refund? Are you going to keep going because your why and your mission and your values are stronger than the negative thing that's happening? That would be my only, let's add to this because it's just going to add so much more value. These things have to be strong enough and deep enough and mean enough to you that it's going to pick you back up when you're falling down, and it's going to keep you on the right path when you're starting to veer.
100%. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So the theme of the podcast is living a life beyond your limiting thoughts, beyond negative thought patterns, beyond negative, limiting behaviors and things like that. So, Alyse, what does your life look like beyond limiting thoughts? And if you're not there yet, what does it look like moving towards a life without limiting thoughts?
I'm definitely still a work in progress on this one. I've come very far, like I kind of touched on earlier, since I really got into the self-development space. But can always recognize more limiting thoughts that are coming up. And I think the difference now between me and me 2 years ago is that I can recognize that that's a limiting thought, but it's not a fact.
Mm.
And of course, I'm not, sometimes I spiral. And for example, right now, there's something that I'm sort of navigating, and I have days where I spiral. And it's like, but what if it doesn't work out the way I want? And what if this doesn't happen this way? And what if I'm not successful in all these things? But what's super cool is like through all of the self-development and coaching that I've had, I've learned that that's a thought and not a fact, and how I can sort of give myself the space to like to feel it, to feel that fear or to feel that doubt or whatever, and then just keep moving anyway. So yeah, I think I'm in the middle of it, and I'm really not sure whether it ever would go away. I think maybe my belief at the moment is like new level, new devil. So not to say that I would never get better at sort of those limiting beliefs dissolving a little bit faster maybe, but yeah, at the moment I think I'm somewhere in that middle of that journey where I know what it is, and I know what I know my common ones are often like a fear of failure. I know my common one, another common one for me is um, the perception of other people in success versus failure, and I put that in quotation marks. Um, and so you can kind of recognize the patterns and the ones that you have often, and then it's really cool because like, oh, now I can verbalize that. Like I can be complaining or sort of having a bad day with my partner and say, oh, but this is not going to work out, and then I can be like, that was a limiting belief that I have often. Like I'll literally verbally say it out loud. He's like, yeah, I know. So yeah, it's a super cool conversation. I really love that question, but definitely somewhere in the middle of that scale at the moment.
I love that. And that's so real because for so many people, they are either at the start or in the middle. And it is a constant work in progress. Like my whole empire, shall we call it, is called Alex Beyond Thoughts. But it doesn't mean I'm completely beyond my thoughts. It doesn't mean I never have limiting thoughts. I absolutely spiral. I can confirm. I do cry in my bed like at least once a week. Don't worry, guys. I'm not. I'm not a machine. I do. But it's actually like, where are you living beyond your limiting thoughts? Where are you empowering yourself? Where do you back yourself 100%? And these limiting thoughts don't even touch you. Like it's so real that actually you're saying, yeah, I'm in the middle and I'm not always feeling like I'm beyond these thoughts and I'm not always feeling like I'm staying in these thoughts. It's so nice and it's so powerful to be able to say, that was a limiting thought. I've caught myself there. And having the words to put to it and having the awareness to say, nope, that's not a fact. That's just a thought. Like, oh, I love that. It lights me up. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that my like initial interaction with like limiting beliefs and limiting thoughts, before I sort of understood what that was when when I learned the first time I learned about a growth versus a fixed mindset. And I think maybe this is a common one, is that I really thought that's it. I can't get any smarter. I can't get any more interesting. I can't get any better at anything. I am what I am, and I can maybe learn like a hard skill, but I can't change like I'm a negative person, or I
Yeah.
can't change that I'm not good at motion graphics yet, for example.
Yeah.
And when I first learned, oh wait, that's actually a mindset thing. That's not a fact. Like first of all, mind
Yeah.
blown. But then it's just super cool because you get to something that I think it's in the mindset, the really famous mindset book, Carol Dweck or something. I
Yeah.
might be making
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah.
And she says, add yet to the end of the sentence. And it's like, I can't make motion graphics, and catch yourself and go, yet. And it really like, it just changes your whole demeanor when you're
Yeah.
speaking. So, because you will have negative thoughts, you will have things that come out of your mouth that are negative or fixed mindset or whatever it might be, limiting.
You're a human. You're going to have emotions.
Exactly. And if you can add, that was the first like my foray into it, and I still do it like all the time. Add the yet to the end of it. You know, I'm not good at I don't know, soccer yet. I'm not. I can't speak German. This is a big thing in my life right now. I can't speak German yet. And that word at the end of the sentence just really, and I'm sure that this is like super basic. So I'm sorry if
No, absolutely.
the listeners are like 10 steps ahead of this already, but if anyone is in that like sort of beginning phase, that's my that was my entrance into this part of mindset work.
I love that so much. And I think some of the simplest clues to this are the things like saying yet, because it's just about switching the power back into your hands. It's about taking ownership of it. And it's so easy to just get lost in saying the limiting thoughts and believing them, and being able to put words to it by just saying yet. I can't do that thing yet. It brings all the power back to you, because it's then on you to change that. And it's then on you to say, I can't do it yet, but here's how I will. Everything then gets put back onto you to have the power to actually execute and change the narrative. And it's so easy to just get lost in, I can't do it, I can't do it, I don't know how, I don't have the skills, someone else has to teach me, I can't Google, like whatever the I don't want to say excuse, but whatever the limiting narrative is in your mind, it's so easy to just get lost in that. And something as simple as saying yet. Can't do it yet. I will be able to though. I'll learn how. I'll do whatever it takes. It's just so empowering.
It's my favorite. I love it.
For sure. So we have a little segment, and it's about doing something fun. I know we can get really heavy and deep and emotional in this podcast because we're talking about so many reflective and like inner self things. So I do like to sort of like start to round up the episode with something fun and juicy. So I'd love to ask you, what is something fun you're doing right now? Whether it's reading or watching or listening to, or doing actually, what is something you're finding fun?
I actually have a few for this, which is cool for me because sometimes I forget to have a little bit more fun in my life.
Yeah.
I'm a typical Capricorn, so I like to just be like, go, 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 ambition, ambition all the time. And I have started to almost force my like schedule in fun. And that sounds so weird to some people, but it's important. Anyway, to answer the question, I've got a few answers. I got into running when I moved to Munich because the gyms here are ridiculously expensive. So we turned lemons into lemonade, and we became a running girly. And I'm unshamefully went out and bought like the running vest with the little water thing, and I can put my phone in and my
I love
headphones and my
that.
jacket in the back because it's freezing in Munich now. And I can like pack snacks and I can take it on hikes. So like unashamedly, I wear this running vest around like when I was doing 2K runs.
Right,
So
girl. I love that. I
we
love it.
have progressed a little bit further than this now, which is really cool to see. But running girly and the activewear is dangerous. And anybody that knows me knows that it's like all I can buy is activewear. So I've really reined it in because I'm
Yeah.
living a one suitcase lifestyle right now.
Ugh.
But that's my first thing. And my second, I was going to say, was just reading. I'm a huge reader. I've always been a massive reader. And when I'm reading, I know I'm good in my like mental health space, because if I'm not
Yeah.
reading, then I know something's wrong. So
We are the same. Oh my gosh.
like, yeah, it's just such a big tell. Like people will ask me, are you reading lately? I got a Kindle for, I think it was my birthday last year or something, and I was like, I love paper books. I love the smell of them. I love the feel. I love the whole. I'm not going to be a Kindle girly. I am fully a Kindle girly. Like, and It's
You
so weird
cannot
because
get it out of my hands.
it's
Glued to
it's
my palm.
addictive. I've got a little pop socket on the back, and you can read in bed. Like, my partner will go to sleep, and I'll be able to read. Chef's kiss, exactly. So I'm reading, I forgot the series name, the one of the Sarah J Maas like fantasy series on there at the moment. Like I always have about 6 books on the go, so that's my fiction.
We actually
And then
are the same.
I'm reading This Is Marketing by Seth Godin again as my nonfiction. So there's a few recommendations for you. Get a running vest because you'll go for the run. It's like, who cares
So
what people
true.
think? Just get it. Get a Kindle, and then always having like a fiction and a non-fiction book. That's my happy
To
places.
alternate between. I love that. That is so cool. I can't say that I'm immediately going to take up the running. I'm not sure I'm a running girly. I'm sure if I get the gear, I'll be kind of an all the gear and no idea kind of girl. But we'll see.
You can
And
join me in
if,
the no
yeah,
idea department.
just me like flailing about, like, guys, I've got a running vest. I love
No,
that so
yeah.
much.
In all seriousness, I will be joining the gym after my next trip because I miss it a lot. But when I
Mm,
got here, I was like, I cannot understand the pricing here. Like Munich is just
yeah,
very one of the most expensive cities in the world. So good job me for choosing that. But yeah, we've got no excuses after my next trip. But before then, I was on a lot of trips. I was always traveling, so running became the next best thing.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay, now that we have hit our listeners with the goods, I want to talk about offers in your world. I want to talk about things you've got going on. Hit me with the good stuff.
I have a lot going on, and simultaneously cannot tell your listeners exactly the juicy details of everything right
Okay,
now because there is a lot in pre-launch phase, but we'll give some
okay.
teasers. So I um I'm restructuring a lot of my offers at the moment in the back end, which you might know about, Alex, being in the
Mm-hmm.
mastermind. But we are transitioning the business into more of an intensive style business next year. What I mean by that is a lot of my offers right now are longer in time commitment. They are big projects. So we're doing big brands, big branding projects from strategy all the way through to branding and implementation. And I love these projects, but some of my clients have been, and my audience and my ideal clients have been like crying out to me for shorter, more intensive services, which means that I will be able to offer like a smaller amount of like deliverables in a shorter amount of time frame. So we'll be launching a couple of offers next year, which are focused on online coaches, so people in the mindset, business, fitness, nutrition, wellness spaces, and one for creatives and CEOs in the online business space. And they will be focused around branding and graphics for those two people. We also have a potty launching very, very soon. So I
Woo!
will have to get you on the podcast as soon as she has launched. We are
Yeah.
about 8 episodes into my first 10 recording, and yeah,
Gosh.
I just want to like batch my first sort of
Yeah.
season of the podcast, and season 2 will be focused on interviews of all the amazing people that I've been
That's so
collecting in
exciting.
my world this year. So we've got a podcast focusing on branding and empowerment conversations coming soon as well. So there's a lot in the world of Studio Aly, of Alyse. But if there is anybody listening who is interested to chat about brand strategy, to chat about graphics, to chat about branding, all of the things, then they can definitely hit me up and jump into some of those offers next year.
Ugh, I love it. I love it so much. And I don't know if you guys have like fully translated how amazing Elise is. I hope you have. But if you are even debating and on the fence just in this podcast thinking, I would love to work with this girl, absolutely do. Because you are going to get a service close to none. And it's just so exciting. I can't believe you got a whole podcast on the go. Oh, and I'm going to feature on it. Amazing. I'm so excited. I love this so much. So, if there's nothing else you want to plug,
I guess I should just tell people that if they want to be part of the community, they can come over. Instagram's the best
absolutely.
place. So probably at Studio Aly _. So ALY is Aly for me. It's short for Alyse if it's groundbreaking uh, studio naming. But yeah, that's where all of the juicy stuff goes down.
Ah, perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation. I've taken up so much of your time, but I'm so grateful. This conversation has been incredible. We've touched on so many things, and I really hope this episode has been so useful to all of you listening. And thank you so much, Alyse, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I can't wait to hear the rest of the season. It's been so good.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'm going to end it here. If you are on the fence, definitely jump in. Even message Alyse. She'll be so happy to hear from you. Um, I will sign out now. See you on the next episode of the Alex Beyond Thoughts podcast. Bye.